This is a call for vengeance. Welcome to today's show. I'm uploading this video to YouTube, which I was going to put on the website, but I figured I'd give this rant out to everybody to see, because originally I had this on my list of articles that I wanted to cover because I like to cover these articles because it's the truth in plain sight. And of course, the zombies out there see articles like this and they literally believe the narrative that's being fed to them. And the title of the article is, "What is a mass extinction? And why do scientists think we're in the middle of one?" Now, I couldn't possibly imagine why anybody would think that we're in the middle of a mass extinction. Could anybody actually think of what could be going on? Why we would think that the human race would possibly be going extinct? Now, I love how the article starts off with, what is a mass extinction? Because obviously anybody who's brainwashed by an article like this probably doesn't even know what the word extinction means. But little do they know, as they continue to listen to the mainstream media and to our government, well, they'll find out what extinction means real fast. Now, before I go into this article and the ridiculous garbage in it, I want everybody to know that I have two other channels linked below. Barely anybody has subscribed to those channels. I'm not going to give a guilt trip on it. I'd appreciate it if you subscribe to those channels now if you haven't yet. I'm trying to prepare backup channels because we all know, okay, this isn't like a hypothetical, like, hey, in the event that my channel gets terminated, I have extra ones, so make sure you subscribe. And everybody goes, yeah, you won't get terminated. It doesn't really need extra channels. We all know that I need extra channels. In fact, I should have 15 channels on standby. But as of right now, I have 2 extra channels. That's it, 2. So please take the time out of your day and subscribe to those channels for me now. Because, there's a lot of people out there who are looking for my content. They type in the name of the channel they think that I am, but they can't find me because I constantly have to make new names up so that I can actually speak freely on platforms like this. So don't be one of those people that's looking for me and can't find me, because I give you ample opportunities to find me, and all you have to do is click on the links below and subscribe. Then you don't have to worry for the time being about where I am. And don't worry about the content that's over there, but I highly recommend some of them, if you need a laugh, you should check out, because some of them are kind of funny. Other ones not so much. But anyway, they're linked below. So CNN releases an article about a mass extinction. Now, for those of you that have followed my work over the last couple of years, specifically even in the last year, I've been talking about the 6th mass extinction. They have been pushing this narrative through propaganda shows like 60 Minutes, etc., convincing people out there that we're on the cusp of a mass extinction. Now, we could all look at it and say, well, clearly we are on the cusp of one, because people are openly and willingly poisoning themselves. So, yeah, we can obviously see that a lot of the population is suddenly having what they call adult sudden death syndrome, amongst many other things, right? But they're also playing this narrative with a mass extinction to try to cover up for why so many people are dropping dead. Of course, they're trying to blame it on the climate. Now, for those of you out there that are new to all this stuff, I've talked about it for years. It seems like the boring topic for people is climate change. It sounds boring. We are conservatives, and the alt-right media just call it a climate cult without going into detail about the carbon tax and the carbon footprint and what human enslavement looks like in the year 2030. Okay? I break that down very clearly. We could start with just basic mind control terms like you can't control the weather. Well, if you're new to this, guess what? You can control the weather. Yeah, surprise, surprise. All one has to do is look up in the sky and see those planes flying above that have those trails behind them. I don't need to give you a deep, detailed description of what that is, but guess what? It ain't water vapor, okay? It's called geoengineering. You could look into Vietnam, Operation Popeye. You could see that in war, our governments have been using geoengineering, creating monsoons, etc., manipulating the weather for a long period of time. See, they don't want you to know that or realize that, because the government is now using that same warfare against civilians all around the earth. So while there might be some changes in the climate, what they're specifically doing is making it difficult for people to grow crops, poisoning the crops from the sky, obviously poisoning humans from the sky. And on top of that, we know that they're shielding the sun, which is done by design. And of course, causing some of these catastrophes that are occurring. Now, I've talked about honeypots like Florida, which they have used weaponized weather before. A lot of the documentaries I posted, even from Disney, talking about in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, how the government had the ability to take storms and veer them away from targets. So in other words, if a hurricane was coming into Florida, they already had the technology then to create, push it off to sea, right? That's what they told us. But of course, why would people want to, why would anybody ever research that? Because the government goes, oh, right, we did say that, but, that didn't work out. Oh, it didn't work out because, of course, they decided to use that technology against us so they could herd people, wipe out territories that they want to wipe out. And everybody goes, well, you can't control the weather because that saying and slogan has been beaten into their heads. Meanwhile, when we talk about things like geoengineering, they want to believe that it's water vapor, even though if you look up at the sky in the beginning of the day, most of the time, you actually have blue skies. A couple of those planes fly above, you have haze skies the rest of the day. But nobody pays attention because instead of looking up, they're looking down at their phones, right? Then, of course, you can look at things like HARP. And what do people think that is? Just a bunch of giant antennas out there? What are they trying to get an antenna feed so they can watch their old TV, their old, you know what I mean, 1960 television? I mean, bunch of antennas there that they're shooting rays into the ionosphere, off of the firmament, I should say. And then, of course, everybody goes, well, what are they doing? Oh, that's above my pay grade. I don't know, right? Or you could look into one Tesla and the earthquake machine. So anyway, my point being is that they want to blame a mass extinction on many other things, not the obvious elephant in the room, which of course is what's going on around us with people literally might as well, but between putting the poison in your body that they're telling you that you need that doesn't do anything for you, you might as well call Jack Kevorkian because you probably have a better chance of survival with Jack Kevorkian. Now I know he's passed, but I mean, we have modern day Jack Kevorkians. Just go up to Canada and call up Prime Minister Trudeau. I mean, countries are legalizing actually helping citizens commit suicide, assisted suicide. So you would think, you would think people would be suspicious when your government is assisting in suicide. And then, of course, they're flat out giving you poison so that you could do it yourself. But nobody connects the dots with that stuff. So this article from CNN is from last month. And again, they're bringing attention to a mass extinction. And these idiots out there, whatever they hear, if the word scientist is involved, except when it comes to what is a man and what is a woman, that's, that's probably the most basic science based on chromosomes, based on common sense, based on a 3-year-old could tell you what a boy and a girl is. But in our society today, that's not science anymore. What science is whatever we say. So science says you can talk and you can't talk. Because if you agree with us, you trust the science. If you don't trust the science and you're a crazy conspiracy kook, right? So this says no species lasts forever. Extinction is a part of the evolution of life. But at least 5 times a biological catastrophe has engulfed the planet, killing off the vast majority of species from water and land over a relatively short geological interval. Well, what they're referencing there is the key term to look at is biological catastrophe, right? And I'm not talking about any type of bioweapon that people believe actually existed in the sky. I'm talking about the one that was shedding out of people's skin. Yeah, catch my drift there? The most famous of these mass extinction events, this is pretty funny, when an asteroid slammed into the Earth 66 million years ago. Of course we have 66. Is it 66 million years ago every year? It probably is. Next year it'll be 33 million. They'll go back to 66 because they make it up. They make up the science. Yeah, were we here 66 million years ago? I highly doubt it, according to the Bible. But, they like to believe we're here for trillions of years and we've gone through all this stuff. Of course, we all know all the nonsense they spew, all the history they tell us, all the lies. It's nothing but lies upon lies, whether it's dinosaurs to space, whatever. Okay, it goes on to say many researchers argue we're in the middle of the 6th mass extinction, and I can't argue with that, caused not by a city-sized space rock, but by the overgrowth and transformative behavior of a single species, humans. That's right, humans. Humans have destroyed habitats and unleashed a climate crisis. Right, so just for common sense for the kids out there who hear all this stuff about climate change, they probably hear their idiot friends spewing the same stuff because what they don't realize is they're on autopilot. So it just goes in one ear and it comes out their mouth. Sometimes it comes out their butt because it pretty much is one and the same when they're regurgitating the mainstream media's narrative. So they don't even realize that the carbon that they're talking about, the carbon crisis, the carbon emission, is you. Because most people don't even realize that humans are carbon-based life forms. So the carbon they want to get rid of, the carbon they want to limit is human beings. And they're actually convincing people, just like, which is also part of the Georgia Guidestones, wiping those off the face of the earth. Because I know for a fact that obviously there was a time capsule under there, and not for a fact as if I know somebody who knows, but there was a time capsule under there. They put time capsules under all this stuff. This is how this has continued to live on when there wasn't even media around, just newspapers. It lives on through time capsules and other things. They communicate with each other. So they blew that up by design. The government blew it up by design for the time capsule, but also they didn't want people to see that 500 million people thing, because then they'd be looking around going, wait a minute. A lot more people than that on the earth. Wait a minute, there's like 8 billion, 9 billion people, and we got to get to 500 million. How the heck are we going to do that? Well, I don't know. How about psychologically convince people to poison themselves? That's a pretty good start, right? And then on top of it, of course, when you start convincing people that humans are destroying the earth, so humans need to go, and these idiots are literally agreeing with it, going, you know what? 1 degree Celsius, humans got to go. Nobody goes back and looks at the fact that they used to call it an ice age was coming with climate change. Then they say global warming. So they go back and forth. And of course, the mainstream media does the same thing, even just recently with how, we've had just a total freeze in America the last couple of weeks. And they had to come out and deflect on global warming because they thought people were getting suspicious about why it was so cold. They also didn't want people to realize that their electric vehicles weren't starting in the cold. So that was something they didn't want out there either, because most of these idiots who go and get electric vehicles, and no offense if you have one, but I mean, I can look at myself plenty of times in my life and say I was an idiot. Okay, that's one of those moments where this isn't about being sensitive. I mean, that's an idiotic move to get to get an electric vehicle. Okay, it's not only is it stupid because it's part of the New World Order agenda. It's stupid because they suck. They don't work in cold weather, and well, if you want to be a slave to these people, feel free. But anyway, this isn't about insulting anyone. Let's just be real. Let's go back to the article here. Many researchers argue we're in the middle of the sixth extinction, again caused by humans. Calculations in a recent study published in the journal PNAS, might as well be PNAS it says, might as well be PENIS, anyway, have suggested that groups of related animal species are disappearing at a rate 35% times higher than the normally expected rate. So animal species are disappearing at a 35% increase. Now, are they talking about human animals or, you know what I mean? I mean, whatever, right? I wonder I wonder how it's, oh, right, the climate, duh, right? And while every mass extinction has winners and losers, there's no real reason to assume that human beings in this case would be among the survivors. So has anyone noticed the theme here with how humans are bad? Everybody's grown cold, like the Bible talks about. People will grow cold. We could see how cold people are growing from one another. I mean, I try every day to fight feeling cold towards other people because of what I see, but I try to remind myself that these people are completely under mind control, which is why I continue to try to fight here on YouTube to snap them out of it. I feel like I'm in the hive here, you know? I'm in the middle of the hive mind of YouTube, which is all liberal propaganda, trying, and of course conservative too, because they allow the hive-minded Republicans and Democrats to speak on this platform, but nobody who's a quote-unquote conspiracy nut. But I feel like I'm in the middle, like I'm infiltrating a place where there's tons of people who are under severe mind control. And I just want to pull them out of it and get them to start critically thinking again, peel the layers off of the defense walls that they've put up through all the trauma. It's literally like a form of trauma-based mind control that they put people under. So they're under a psychosis. You got to just peel the layers off with an onion peeler or, whatever, some type of peeler. Literally, you need to put people through like wood chippers to get this stuff off of them. That's how deep the mind control. So that's why I continue here, and I'm not sitting on BitChute or somewhere because everybody over there already knows what's going on, right? Isn't the whole goal to bring other people to truth, to wake them up? So I feel like I'm like in the middle here. I'm infiltrating, which again, the way things are going, if you're anyone out there listening, if you're like me, we're going to have to infiltrate their systems because even if it gets divided into a conservative and democratic, states, all of us should know by now that the conservative side is compromised too. So we're going to have like little factions inside of there and infiltrate and try to get around everything. So there's really no hope for any of us because we're not allowed to have a voice. That's the point. You have the right-wing voice or the left-wing voice, but you can't have a voice that actually exposes both of them as being compromised. That's dangerous to them. So while there's winners and losers in the mass extinction, I don't know who the winners are. It says every mass extinction has winners. Oh, right. The winners are the global elites, as they like to call themselves, right? Because they don't have to deal with peasants anymore, or the Goyim. I mean, let's be real. Let's use the real terminology here of who these global elites are, right? They refer to us as Goyim, okay? Anyone get it yet? Yeah, I think a lot of you do, obviously. So they're the winners. The losers is everyone else. And, of course, the human beings would not be among the survivors. So they've also told us they want to replace us with technology. They've also told us that, we've heard Yuval Harari, that scum of the earth I've exposed many times over. Everybody has at this point. Openly talk about, of course, another Hershey Highway rider, another guy who openly talks about what's the point of humans anymore? What's the point of humans? We don't need humans anymore because they don't need us anymore. Well, guess what? We don't need them. And in fact, if people get sucked out of this hive mind of Republican conservative, because those are the people we're all, we're all going to get stuck with these MAGAs who obviously have an understanding but don't even realize they're not awake. They're into Q. They're into all these little group factions that the CIA has created to still keep them in a hive mind. Yeah, they get a little bit of truth, but then instead of a real revolution, like I keep saying, everybody's investing in these plants who have been placed there so that people follow these fake leaders right off the cliff. And that's what's going to end up happening. So they're talking about a mass extinction, right? Everybody listening, as the article goes on to talk about, oh, asteroids killing dinosaurs, all the fake crap. Now, people who are like recently waking up and like, oh yeah, I can't trust anything they say. It's not like this is new. I mean, they've been lying to us forever, Like, I could just throw this in here now. It's going to do a video on the website, probably still will. You got Elon Musk over visiting those camps with Ben Shapiro. You don't see the herding mechanism there of why he's even over there doing that? And Ben Shapiro's role as the alt-right media? Because they have to continue to garner support, so they're leading people to support a certain group. Certain group, of course, is the exact people responsible. So I can't go into more detail about that. But we're talking about a mass extinction, right? We're normalizing the term because this is about the millionth time they brought attention to a mass extinction. The problem is that people out there don't realize what's going on, and they listen to stuff and think it's real. So when I say, hey, you're seeing stuff now, you're saying that's fake news. What do you think? They just started this fake news? You don't think all the crap we learned in school was a fake indoctrination? Space and history. What, you don't think they manipulated it? Of course they did. They manipulate everything. The only truth in this world is in the Bible. Anyone there has a problem with that, don't listen to the channel. It's the truth. The only truth in this world, like the Bible even tells us, is in the Bible. And if you actually read the Bible, you'll see prophecy not only being fulfilled, but you can see all the stuff that I expose and talk about here, all the wickedness. The Bible's filled with discussing wickedness. Most people listen to me and they're like, man, this guy's just talking. Come on, read the good word. It's like, yeah, well, okay, there's a lot of obviously good stuff in the Bible. Positive, everything's good. But there's a lot of negative stuff, A lot of prophecies where God's revealing the wickedness, the evil. We can look at Ezekiel. We could go through all this stuff, over and over and over again. Even, I don't hear many preachers talk about it. They only call it end time prophecy guys, right? They talk about the book of Revelation, but one could just look at that and see what's going on now. So obviously this goes on throughout the Bible. It's the only truth in the world is the Bible. All the stuff they've ever told us is a lie. So them to come out and even try to compare what's going on now to other time periods, like it's normal for people to die because extinctions have happened. Yeah, it's normal for people to die when they poison themselves, which is, what we just saw occur. So that'll continue on, of course, as, the next X is released upon us, and that video on the treaty that just is about to get signed, which of course is getting signed, let's be real. Trying to pretend like, it's a debate about the treaty. The treaty's been signed. It's been signed for a long time. It's about announcing to everyone out there that it's signed so that they're not so overreactive to the news of it, right? Once it's signed, once it's in place, which it already is, once people know, then they're just like not suspicious because they're not suspicious of anything. And that's why the two things I always talk about are key mind controls: repetition and desensitizing people. You do both, and then you look and see where I just re-uploaded tons of videos on the website from years ago, and I have tons more to put up. And I look at one of them, and it was like something about "I'm so embarrassed to be alive" or something was the title. And I'm looking at the video, and I'm seeing like just some of the stuff about trans. And at that time, this is like 6 years ago, and it blows my mind that at that time, because I guarantee if I put that video up now, everyone would go, "What's the big deal?" They'd be like, "Oh yeah, it's been going on for years now. Get over it," because that's what desensitizing does. They just tell you this. What do you think they're doing right now with that island? They're normalizing it. I keep telling everyone that. I've been saying it for years. They're normalizing it because by exposing these things and nothing being done, no one being arrested, it just makes people shrug their shoulders and it normalizes it. And it's going to continue that way as long as civilians don't rise up against this. And they're doing everything they can to prevent that. And they obviously have the mechanisms in place because these people are the key, they're the gatekeepers to mind control. They know all the keys, all the intricate details. This whole thing is their game. We're in the middle of their maze, even being on the internet. Okay? And for anyone out there to think that independently someone like Donald Trump is going to save them from this stuff, that he's not one of them, you're out of your mind. And the problem is more so that people don't want to believe that because they don't want to face the reality. And they're like, well, what's your solution to it? The solution is the people need to get together. And they need to come out of the first wave here that comes. And they don't need to fall for the trap because there's a lot of traps in place for people to get seduced, lured, and herded naturally because like sheep, the majority of people out there are sheeple and they will be herded because the media continues to control them and everyone needs to break away from it. Again, if you didn't subscribe earlier, to my backup channel, please do it now for me. I would really appreciate it if everybody subbed. There's only about 8,000 people there. This channel has 20,000. I was hoping to have about 15,000 over there. It just makes me feel, I just need people there if you still want my content. That's it. It's as simple as that. Because otherwise, I'm just going to get to a point where I'm like, all right, it's over and I'm done. So please do that if you haven't yet. Otherwise, if you really don't want to and you're just listening because you have nothing to do, perfectly understandable. I don't take it personal. But if you don't know or you heard it and you're like, yeah, I'll get around to it, now's the time to do it. Okay? I'd appreciate it. Thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all well. God bless you as always and your families.